Hi everyone, I'm the CRM Ninja. Welcome to another episode of the Oops Factor. And I'm joined this evening by Keith Whatling.
Hello.
Who incidentally has positioned his MVP badge or award
Oh gosh, really?
in the background really well, because I was going to mention he was one of the Microsoft Business App MVPs, but anyway, regardless,
so crass.
No, it's fine. Don't worry about it, Keith. So people in the UK community are quite familiar with Keith. He gets to a lot of the events, especially if they contain drinks. He loves places which contain sort of spirits and stuff, and places outside of the UK as well.
That also contain spirits.
Yeah. What people should know about Keith is when people think of London, there are several iconic things that come into mind. They're the black taxis, and they're also London buses. And Keith is the solution architect for Arriva London. So I've seen some great YouTube videos that you've done presenting about it, talking about how London buses go 6 times around the world each day.
That's just us, EY. That's just Arriva London, 6 times around the world a day. That's not the whole thing. Yeah, it's immense. It's the Tube carry, I think it's about we carry 2.1 billion people a year, and the Tube only manage a measly billion. So what can I say? We're the real face of public transport. Just saying.
I can tell you, it definitely feels like it's the other way around with my experiences on the Tube and on the buses. Anyhow, Keith, why don't you tell us about something that's happened where you may have said "oops" at some point, and lessons that you've learned from it.
We've said "oops" a few times whilst we've been working on the buses, EY. I can tell you that for nothing. I've had lots of different jobs because I used to live very close to Essex, and that's very typical for people like me to have lots and lots and lots of different jobs. And I think my first big major oops. Oh, I've got 2 actually big major oopses. Go
for it.
So I accidentally pressed the wrong button on an ordering system when I was doing telesales. I used to sell toilet roll to hotels and ladies' sanitary equipment and all of the disposable products that you would use to clean hotels and buildings and all that sort of thing. And I accidentally sent a lady in a major London hotel, whose name was Lisa, I seem to remember, like 2,000 boxes of 12 rubber gloves. She only wanted like X hundred of rubber gloves for this massive hotel, which will remain nameless, but it's one of the biggest. And I sent her literally a van full, and no one noticed the whole thing. And fortunately they had a huge warehouse, and I was on very good terms with her, and I got her to keep them. And we all made our sales bonus that month because we'd sold like 30 grand's worth of rubber gloves. And because she was nice to me and I was nice to her, she kept them. And no one could believe how. And I think that was when I kind of learned about treating people nicely. And because I had such a fantastic relationship with her and a fantastic relationship with my customers, I think that was when I really realized that, like, actually there's a lot to be said for being a little bit humble and a little bit kind to people, and not being an arse, be nice. So that was my first experience of being nice. My biggest, one of my biggest, especially in terms of size, physical size, would be I printed a banner once for a building company, and they had a building thing in Highbury Fields, and being a bit dyslexic and sending it off to print. And I mean, I'm not talking about the printer in the office that I could check. We'd sent this damn thing off, and it came back from the printers, and I still don't think it went off that way. I think it was. I'm pretty sure we.
No, not your fault, of course.
I'm plausible deniability, like, of course, But
I did work experience in printers actually, in one of the Cool Quick franchises. So I saw what happened.
Yeah, you can imagine. You can imagine. So I had I had this print, this great big purple banner, 30, 40 foot high purple banner with, eyelets in the top to be hung from this massive metal frame. And it said hybrid fields on it. And it came back and fields, the INE were the wrong way around. And it wasn't like the INE were the wrong way around in the small print. The INE were the wrong way around. And this was like a 3 foot high letter. So myself and my midweight designer, we literally had a steel ruler and a scalpel cutting the damn thing off and peeling it off, and then moving it ever so slightly over and sticking the sort of horizontal bars of the E on the riser for the eye, trying to put this damn thing together and make it look like we hadn't made this colossal great big cock up. But yeah, that was a particularly hairy moment, for sure. I suppose in terms of like CRM, I think my most recent oops, I suppose, or most recent thing where I've always been quite good at sort of like checking my work after that. Like, I've made a few more errors. I try not to make them again. You build those checks into stuff. But I think with Power Platform, because it's so easy and you don't really need to check because you've got such a high confidence that when you submit your data, it goes into where it's supposed to and it does all the things it's supposed to do. I think that we've gotten very used to not checking that all of our data is there, like all of the fields are populated, and I think that can be a bit of a thing that sometimes is overlooked. I've certainly seen people go, okay, it's submitted, and in testing we've done it, and there's not that ongoing process of review to make sure that yes, the data quality is there, and so on and so forth. For me, recently, I was building a solution that went from Power Apps, went from SQL and Excel into SharePoint, stored in SharePoint, and then sent off via SFTP for someone. And it was off to a third party. And the conversation we hadn't had was about time, and about time zones. And I was working in the UK, and they're a UK-based company. But I was working in UTC and storing my time zone offsets and all that kind of stuff.
As one should be doing, of course.
As of course one should be doing. And yet it turned out when I sent it to them, because their client base is purely in the UK, they have no concept of UTC. Everything they've got is GMT, which was a bit, okay, that's a bit odd. Like, you'd think they'd do that conversion. I'm not going to send them stuff that's not UTC. So yeah, was a bit odd, that one. But I think you have to have those discussions up front about making sure that things all lines up and there aren't any assumptions. I think that's
very important. So the lessons to learn from this sort of thing is, one, never assume, always check, all the different factors. Even if you think you're both in the same country, you should always be checking these sort of things.
Yeah.
And number two, always double check what the printer send back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll never forget one newsletter we did. There was a party scene in this newsletter, and no one had checked the photo, and there's a bloke standing back with two fingers in the air.
Oh gosh.
So that was quite entertaining. Yeah, all sorts of kind of craziness like that. You just, newsletters where they say, oh, this I won't say which company it was for, but let's just say that they mentioned an iconic thing that does this thing, and they got this thing completely wrong. So
right.
Yeah, lots of that kind of thing.
Yeah, I know. I've had stuff myself. I've referred to the wrong thing or put one thing up on the screen and talked about something totally different. So always important to check and double check the information. Yeah,
I think from the print world, it was read it backwards. That was always what they used to talk about. If you actually physically read it backwards, it's almost impossible to, because you go number blind. You go number blind, you go word blind. I worked on way back when I worked on this price list, this printed price list, and I had these two huge sort of 21-inch monitors in front of me, and it was a monochrome job that went to the printer, so it wasn't even a black and it was red. It was like a very, very deep red and various shades of red to give you all of the different, little bands on the column and all that kind of stuff. So you're working on two massive monitors with this one color, and we'd pair up. We'd have two people checking, and then we'd have another two people checking to make sure the numbers are right on these price lists. Because you get printed price lists wrong, it can cost you a lot of money. It's not like today where you can change it. But when I left that night, when you come out of a tent and like it's a different color outside, like it's a bit, that you get that effect because your brain was overcompensating for this one particular hue, and you step away from it and the world was a different color for a bit. It's crazy. Lots of fun. Lots of mistakes.
Hopefully, stuff you can work on in color and not just monochrome.
Now we're all for we use all of the system colors now, so we're fine. But yes, it's lots of mistakes, but one shouldn't bemoan them. As long as no one dies at the end of it, that's all good.
Indeed, important to learn from it.
Yeah, very
well. Keith, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate your time, and have a great evening.
Will do.